Chapter 2. James slid into the patrol car with a sigh as the cool air from the vents hit him. The heat usually didn't bother him, but chasing a naked guy through Monument Circle had the sweat soaking through his uniform shirt. He wiped the droplets from his forehead as Steve climbed into the vehicle. "I could have gone my whole life without seeing that," Steve said with a chuckle as he started the car. "At least he's Unit 29's problem now." He glanced at the clock in the dashboard. Picking up his radio handset, he notified dispatch that they were off shift and headed back to the station. "What do you think of your first day?" "It was just what I was hoping for when I moved down here. Back home, a typical day would probably be boring. Nothing ever happens in Fairfield Corners, and that perp running through Monument Circle, who knew a naked guy could run that fast?" Lost in thought, James was surprised when they pulled into the lot at the station. As if on cue, Steve's cell phone rang. Flipping it open, he answered as he shut the motor off. "Hey, Cara. What's wrong, baby?" Listening to his wife, he frowned at her news. "Damn it, I'll have to find someone else to pick up Marie. She has a late class, and you know I don't like her walking home alone after dark. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. We just pulled into the station. I should be there in about 30 minutes. He ran his hand through his hair and sighed as he leaned against the vehicle. "Yeah, love you too. Well, rookie, I hope you don't have any plans for tonight. I need you to go get Marie after her class. One of the kids is sick, and Cara got called in to work." He led James toward the building. "Me? But nothing. I know you won't do anything to hurt my baby sister. I would find out, and your life would be hell." "I thought you didn't want me anywhere near your sister." "I don't. But I can't dump a sick kid on you on your first day, so you get to give Marie a ride instead. You pick her up and drop her off, nothing else. And keep your hands to yourself. I don't want her getting any ideas. She will spend her future with someone who doesn't risk their life on a daily basis. She deserves a normal life, not one of worry and headache." "I understand. If I had a sister, I wouldn't want her to hook up with a cop either." "I'm glad we're on the same page." His mind raced as she walked to the locker room, Marie alone with him in his car. Could he keep his promise to not touch her? After a shower, James donned his street clothes and packed his work blues and service firearm into his bag. Bent over, as he secured his personal weapon in his ankle holster, he noticed his partner staring at him. "What, did I miss a button or something?" "No, I'm just wondering if I can trust you with my sister. I saw the way you were watching her at lunch." Steve slammed his locker closed and picked up his bag. "Marie's class is in the Education Social Work building. Do you know where that is?" "No, I haven't been to the campus yet." Steve scribbled the address on a piece of paper from his notebook. "You can find Michigan Street, right? You take that to campus and turn left on University Boulevard. There's a parking lot on the right. She'll be looking for my car in the lot." He handed the paper to James as he snapped the notebook shut. "I'm counting on you to keep her safe, rookie." Parked under a light, James hoped he hadn't missed her. An accident on Michigan Street had slowed traffic to a crawl, and he drove into the lot at the exact time Maria's class should be ending. He scanned the crowd as a steady stream of students poured out of the building and walked to their cars, laughing and chattering. No sign of her. I hope I didn't miss her. Scanning the parking lot, he started to sweat when he didn't see her. His career would be over before it began if she walked home and mentioned it to her brother. His attention was on his watch, so the knock on his window startled him, and he put his elbow in the middle of the steering wheel as he spun toward the sound, honking the horn. His cheeks heated as he rolled down the window. "There you are. God, I thought you had already left, and I would have been out of a job tomorrow." Embarrassed at being caught wool-gathering, he rubbed his hands over his face. "Sorry, handsome. I'm sure Steve wouldn't have fired you. I don't think it's entirely up to him." He jumped out of the car and took her elbow and escorted her to the passenger side of the automobile and opened the door. "Besides, he texted me and told me you would be here instead of him." Sliding back into the driver's seat, James twisted the key and grinned at the sound of the engine. His bright red Camaro purred as he backed out of the parking space. "You'll have to give me directions. Steve only told me how to get here. I have no idea where you live."
"It's only a few blocks. I could walk, but Steve would have a coronary if I did."
Following her directions, he pulled up in front of her apartment building minutes later. He unbuckled his seatbelt and climbed out of the car. Marie met him at the fender, keys in her hand.
"You don't have to see me to the door. I can handle it."
She smiled when he ignored her and placed his hand at her elbow. "Nope, door-to-door service. Anything less, and your brother would have my butt in a sling." When they reached the entrance, he gently pulled her keys out of her hand and unlocked the door.
"Do you want to come in? I have some cold soda. There's a nice breeze. We could sit out on the patio."
"I shouldn't, but I can't seem to say no to you. Lead the way." He scanned the photos hanging on the wall of the living room as she showed him the way to the sliding glass door.
"Go sit. I'll grab a couple of sodas."
Staring out across the green area, he observed some kids splashing in the complex's pool, wondering what Marie would look like in a bikini. He shook his head and forced the thought away. Just friends. Don't forget that. He rotated at the sound of the door sliding open to find Marie, the light from the living room illuminating her figure.
"I'm sure it's nothing like the view you are used to, but it's home."
She set the tray in her hands down on the table and turned back to close the door. "Looks like a decent place. At least there's a deadbolt on the front door. Do you have a bar for the slider?"
"Now you sound like my brother,"
Marie replied with a laugh.
"Believe me, he went over this place with a fine-tooth comb before he let me move here. I like it because it's close to work and school, and the rent is affordable. And yes, of course, I have a bar for the slider. You must have missed me moving it when you were staring at the photos on the wall."
He pulled out a chair and sat with his back to the yard, just trying to get a bead on what makes you tick. The fizz of the soda when it hit the ice cubes was unnaturally loud in the silence.
"I'm just a college girl trying to find my way in the world. Nothing special."
Holding back a snort at her nothing special comment, he asked, "So what are you studying?"
"Elementary education. I want to be a special education teacher. What about you? Did you always want to go into law enforcement?"
She sipped her soda as she waited for his reply. "I've always been fascinated by the law, but I didn't want to be a lawyer. My dad was a prosecuting attorney, and I saw some of what he dealt with on a daily basis. Besides, getting to play the hero and put the bad guys away while saving the unlucky heroine holds much more appeal." He gazed at her as she stared out at the pool, mesmerized. The ringing of the doorbell knocked him out of his trance-like state, bringing him back to reality.
"Crap! I forgot Nate was coming over tonight. Excuse me."
He wondered why she was so flustered. It wasn't like they were on a date or something. Maneuvering his chair so he faced the apartment, he watched as she answered the door. Jealousy bubbled up in his gut as she invited the guy into her home. Tall and muscular, he picked her up effortlessly and swung her around.
"Put me down,"
Marie said with a giggle. "I'm happy to see you, too." She pulled on his hand.
"Come on out and meet Steve's new partner."
James stood as they walked closer, wondering why she had flirted with him earlier at the diner if she was already dating this guy. Maybe that was why Steve had warned him away from her.
"James, this is Nate, a friend of mine. Nate, this is James Marsden, Steve's new partner."
"Great to meet you," James said as he walked around the table. "Obviously you have plans for tonight, so I'll just be going." He noticed Nate's eyes narrow as he took in James's appearance.
"You don't have to leave,"
she said as she followed him to the entrance. By the time he opened the door, he had convinced himself that he had read too much into her actions earlier. Maybe she talked to all the guys that way as a means to increase her tips. Looking back at her, the lights accentuated her curves and made his libido sit up and take notice. "Thanks for the soda. I'll see you later." Once the door closed, he leaned against the doorframe and willed himself to think of something other than her. She wasn't in his plans for his life as a police officer in Indianapolis. Marie stood still as a statue as she closed the door behind him. What in the world was that all about, she wondered. Nate looked from her to the door and back. "Did I interrupt something?"
"No, I was hoping, but it appears that it was all one-sided on my part.
I don't like the way he was looking at you. You're better off that he left. I'm sure your brother doesn't want you to be with someone like him.
What do you mean, someone like him? He seems to be a nice guy.
He twisted so she couldn't see the red creeping up his face at her, showing interest in another guy. You said that he's Steve's partner. I'm sure your brother wants you to be with someone other than a cop. Turning back to the door, she placed her hand on the knob as she debated with herself about reopening the door. Did she want to take a chance? The roar of an engine and squealing tires were her answer when she decided to go for it. She was too late.